For the top stories of our news, Marimar became the first Mexican novela imported in the Philippines. Big Brother became the hit reality show around the world. ABS-CBN's The Promise obtained success within and beyond Philippine shores. Mula Batanes hanggang Hulo, Eat Bulaga has reached other neighboring countries to share the thousands of smiles. Netflix, embracing the ideas of global convergence, has allowed contents to be exposed in most accessible cable channels.
Live from the T News Center, Manila, Philippines, this is Global Expose, Vanguard for Global Unity.
One news, one vision, one community. Good day Philippines, good day world. Today is 27th of October 2020. I am Louie Maysero and live here in GE News Center, Manila, Philippines. This is Global Expose, bringing you the hottest, most transparent and leading news. More than justice and freedom, we are reporting nothing but the truth. For the details of our news, the local and the global have almost always been depicted as opposing and in conflict. However, both are interdependent and cannot exist without each other, thus mapping a new world space that is simultaneously more globalized and localized than before, with the movement of capital, culture, images, and technologies. This is without regard to national borders, and also with a tendency towards fragmentation of the world into increasingly contentious enclaves of difference, ethnicity, and resistance. The existing flow of global and local cultural production is evident as of today. Rina Marie Kumpay for the details.
Global and local cultural production can be analyzed through conceptual metaphors such as solids, liquids, gases, and flows. Prior to the global age, people, things, information, places, and objects tended to harden over time. Thus, their common attribute was solidity, the characteristic of being limited to one place as to cultural differentialism. Although solidity persists, it is fluidity that is more characteristic of the global age. Over the last few decades, that which once seemed solid has tended to melt and become increasingly mobile or liquid. A range of technological developments in transportation and communication have enabled far greater global movement of what was previously solid. The difficulties posed by the fact that many things and people retain some solidity can now also be dealt with more readily. As this process of increased mobility continues, liquids tend to turn into gases. This implies additional attributes of being light and a capacity to flow even faster and with greater ease, putting into existence of cultural hybridization and convergence. Globalization is increasingly characterized by flows of liquid phenomena, including people, objects, decisions, informations, and places, thus affected the easy flow of global and local cultural production. Ranging across issues involving film, literature, and theory, exist the interwoven forces of globalism and localism in a variety of cultural settings. Positioned at the crossroads of an altered global terrain, this volume, the first of its kind, analyzes the evolving transnational imaginary, the full scope of contemporary cultural production by which imagined communities are being reshaped at both the global and local levels of everyday existence. This is Rina Marie Kumpay reporting for Global Expose. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Rin. The Mexican novela Marimar hits its peak in the Philippines. Big Brother became the hit reality show around the world, and the success of Eat Bulaga and ABS-CBN's The Promise. All of this when we return.
Culture is Canadian.
Art and culture is a huge part of where we live.
Expressed through film,
sculpture, photography,
painting.
I really love dance.
How we express ourselves as individuals and as a collective.
creating beauty and oneness with other people.
It's just about like learning something new.
Go and support the arts.
I'm looking forward to Culture Days.
Everyone should experience Culture Days.
I love culture.
And we're back. back. The Mexican novela Marimar of 1994 by Ines Rodina became the first Mexican telenovela imported in the Philippines. It easily captured the attention of the mass that made it the most watched teleserye in the country. Here's Vilma Mabel Bar for the news.
Ratings peaked at 61.7% and the show spawned not one but two Filipino remakes. This is how the Mexican novela Marimar gives impact to the Filipino mass. But how did the Mexican novela grow so popular in the Philippines? Both countries share the same history and culture of being colonized by the Spain. This makes for a lot of cultural similarities. Widespread Roman Catholicism, Spanish names, dishes like adobo and lechon.
Poverty in both countries is widespread, but until recently, depictions of poverty were not common on Filipino television. Meanwhile, Marimar was unafraid to show it off. It's different from our soap operas. She has the same problems we do. It shows the discrimination against poor people. One interviewee for the New York Times said in 1996, because of this, Marimar was able to gain a wide audience among the lower and middle class of the Philippines. The first ever remake as granted by Televisa was the 2007 Philippine version of the same title Marimar, starring Marian Rivera and the GMA Network. It was a huge hit around Asia. At the same time, in Mexico, Natalie Laertiolio made Marimar in 2013 under the title Corazon Indomable, and Ana Brenda Contreras and Daniel Arenas starred as their protagonists.
In 2015, Philippines GMA Network remade the Mexican telenovela for a second time, with Tom Rodriguez and Miss World 2013 winner Megan Young playing the title role of Marimar 2015 version. Marimar was shown in over 150 countries in either Spanish or dubbed version. The dubbed version includes Portuguese, Hungarian, and Tagalog. This is Vilma Mabel Bar reporting for Local Expose. Back to studio.
Thank you, Vilms. The Big Brother became the hit reality show around the world. Junicel Mercado for more updates.
Big Brother is a Dutch reality competition television franchise created by John de Mol Jr., first broadcast in the Netherlands in 1999, and subsequently syndicated internationally.
Big Brother is reformed.
It became the hit show, and later on, countries in different parts of the world have franchised the reality show. The said reality show captured the mass attention, not just in Dutch people, but the world's attention, for its unique way of platform and mechanics. The show broadly follows the premise of other versions of the format, in which a group of contestants known as housemates live together in a specially constructed house that is isolated from the outside world. The housemates are continuously monitored during their stay in the house by live television cameras as well as personal audio microphones. Throughout the course of the competition, housemates are evicted from the house by being voted out of the competition. English language editions of the program are often referred to as BB. Many Spanish language editions of the program are called Gran Hermano. The format has become an international TV franchise, while each country or region has its own variation. Most international versions of the show remain quite similar to each other. Their main format remains true to the original fly-on-the-wall observational style with an emphasis on human relationships, to the extent that contestants usually are forbidden from discussing nominations or voting strategy. In 2001, the US version adopted a different format during its second season, where the contestants are encouraged to strategize to advance in the game. In this format, the contestants themselves vote to evict each other.
It is now time for the live voting to begin. As always, neither of the two nominees are allowed to vote.
Big Brother have franchised around the world and named. The India called it Big Boss. Philippines also have Pinoy Big Brother franchise with 14 seasons since 2007.
As of 21st September 2019, there have been 448 seasons of Big Brother in over 54 franchise countries and regions. This is Junicel Mercado reporting for Global Expose. Noemi?
Thank you, Jen. ABS-CBN's The Promise, the modern retelling of the greatest Filipino love story, remained dauntless since its premiere on May 2015 until it bowed on a high note on February 2016. Here's Luzmian Batle for the news.
Top billed by teen Queen and King Catherine Bernardo and Danielle Padilla, the remake consistently recorded outstanding TV ratings, breaking its record of an average 40% rating by earning a 44.5% for its final episode.
It's the telling of a classic love story, and the storytelling changed the landscape of soap operas at the time. Kung before, parang ang bagal ng pagkwento, ito nag-umpisa yung ang bilis. Ang daming nangyayari, ang daming may kwento, at ang ganda ng pangako is how it was able to merge all that.
Remake lives of the original drama's legacy and format built by Latin America's personal TV 15 years after the original achieved success within and beyond Philippine shores.
It has created inroads. It has made inroads for ABS-CBN para makita ang mga produkto natin abroad.
The original drama, produced in 2000, was embraced by more than 18 countries around the world, making a big star out of its male protagonist, Jericho Rosales, in both Southeast Asia and Africa. The remake continues to grow in popularity as it reaches more and more territories in the global market.
Pangako sa'yo.
Its lead stars with the love team moniker Katniel, were recently honored as Best Foreign Actors by Vietnam's Face of the Year Awards. Meanwhile, the drama-crazed Mexican audience will soon get a dose of The Promise, Pangako sa'yo, on primetime television no less. Restaurant TV, one of Latin America's leading production companies, has purchased the drama's format from ABS-CBN. This is Luzman Batley reporting for Global Expose. Back to studio.
Thank you, Ms. May. Eat Bulaga, the noontime show in the Philippines, has reached other neighboring countries to share the thousands of smiles. The longest-running noontime variety show in the Philippines is produced by Television and Production Exponents Incorporated and aired by GMA Network.
Eat Bulaga became the first Philippine television show to get an overseas franchise when it got one from Indonesia, produced by Television and Production Exponents Incorporated, which is aired by SCTV Network. Its first incarnation premiered on July 16, 2012 and ended on April 3, 2014, which aired on its original network SCTV. The show returned to Indonesian television with its new incarnation on a different station, ANTV, as The New Eat Bulaga Indonesia, starting November 17, 2014 and ending on June 30, 2016 with a mix of original and new hosts. On July 16, 2016, it was announced that the show was returning to SCTV under the original name, also with a mix of returning and new cast crew members. It launched episodes on November of 2016. The success of the Indonesian franchise of Eat Bulaga resulted to a domino effect as other Asian countries seemed to be interested in jumping on the bandwagon.
Ang 1,001 tuwa ay hindi na lang pang Pilipino, kung hindi pang Asyano.
It got an overseas franchise in Myanmar as it celebrates its 40th anniversary on July 30, 2019.
Yan ang Eat Bulaga, Myanmar!
Amidst the celebration, the show's originators Bossing Vic Soto and Julie De Leon went on stage and introduced Captain Ong Po of Eat Bulaga, Myanmar. Netflix, embracing the ideas of global convergence and globalization depicted as a threat to local culture, coming right now.
One shot, now the future is yours. Yeah, I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. New memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. We put the balls in the breaks. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Flip the cover with the drummer, passion never rests. Freedom is our teacher under pressure, now we blessed.
Awesome!
Yeah, it's one heart, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Netflix, wholeheartedly embracing the ideas of global convergence, allowed it to thrive in an age where contents are exposed to most accessible cable channels. Here's Irely Escocia for the news.
Another concept that Netflix has started to embrace more and more is the concept of global convergence. This concept is the idea that digitization allows for content to be transmitted internationally and builds on the fact that broadcast media typically have national boundaries. The place you most frequently see this as regard to Netflix foreign films and shows that are made outside of the US, whether that be from North America or across the ocean. These films and shows are shining example of global convergence that would rarely be seen outside of their country of origin without a platform such as Netflix. A recent example of this is HBO Latin America and HBO Europe's co-production Destino Russia 2018, which was reported on The Hollywood Reporter Miguel Savage.
¿Qué tipo de historias contamos que no son las historias típicas que vemos?
Commissioning editor of HBO Europe is quoted. The project becomes even more universal, bringing all its colors and emotions to many countries. This show is a good example of global convergence, helping to eliminate boundaries of nations and allowing the creation of a show that is enjoyed by people of many nations. One great example of this is a global convergence in the movie Veronica.
Oi, eu sou Veronica Torres.
Which debuted in 2017 from Spain. The main reason this show has grown in popularity is because it was recently added to Netflix library and immediately got buzz on Twitter. Another is Stranger Things, as one of the Netflix most popular shows. Although Netflix does not release its actual viewing data, they tried creating a system to count how many viewers they amass. The second season had over 16 million viewers in the first 3 days of the season premiere. Without the global convergence of Netflix, there are many films and shows that a Western English-speaking audience would never get to see, given the national boundaries of a cable channel. This is Irely Escocia, reporting for Local Expose.
Globalization has been a threat to local culture. How true is this? Rina Marie Kumpay.
Globalization thus more than simply increased the availability of foreign-made consumer products and disrupt traditional producers. It is also increasing international trade in cultural products and services, such as movies, music, and publications. The expansion of trade in cultural products is increasing the exposure of all societies to foreign cultures, and the exposure to foreign cultural goods frequently brings about changes in local cultures, values, and traditions. Although there is no consensus on the consequences of globalization on national cultures, many people believe that a people's exposure to foreign culture can undermine their own cultural identity. However, Melissa Chu has a stand against this.
Globalization hasn't had an impact on everyone. And so I think that we will never see, as far as I can see, the disappearance of a local culture, because that is what I think people really want. That the global cultures is what I see as an imperative, as something that or kind of a necessity, what we all have to deal with. But localism and a kind of working on a local level will.
Globalization, despite the threats, allows the local to learn about other cultures and develop a wider cultural understanding. This is Rina Marie Kumpay reporting for Local Expose. Noemi?
Thank you, Rin. For the wrap-up, Globalization tends to emphasize similarities, whereas local emphasizes differences. The relationship between the local and the global is dynamic such that both depend upon each other. This also affected the flow of cultural production.
Globalization leads to transmission of ideas, meanings, and values converted by cultural industries to be distributed around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. For instances, the Mexican novela Marimar of Mexico hitting its peak in the Philippines. The Big Brother reality show travels around the world. ABS-CBN's The Promise Pangako Sayo being the most successful Filipino drama, Itbulaga reaching other neighboring countries, and Netflix wholeheartedly embracing the ideas of global convergence.
In spite, it has been said that this has been a threat to local cultural identities and that some nations dominate the global cultural sense. However, with constant cultural circulation, it enhances the demand for cultural products, and with constant profits, cultural industries earn high revenues which are important for economic structure. This also brings opportunities for nations to broaden cultural understanding. That's all for the news. This has been Noe Megsero, your unbiased truth revealer for Local Expose, Vanguard for Global Unity. More than justice and freedom, we are reporting nothing but the truth.
This is Local Expose, Vanguard for Global Unity.